President Tinubu, Shetima, and other top politicians to get an increase of salary of 114%. And also, if you could recall, we said that the president have actually traveled to France to actually go for a global financial finance impact to summit. So we keep our fingers crossed that that summit will be starting to do. So we hope to hear more, coming out from that summit and how it will impact our own, economy here in Nigeria. A lot of stories on the paper. PDP to close their case today, Labour Party tomorrow, and then we just have a lot of stories that are unfolding on the paper. So we would love to hear what your takes are concerning any of the story later on the show when we open the phone lines, or you can drop your comment on Facebook or YouTube. The program is The Dailies on Echo Television International, and I am Sela Elisha. Rachel Tazi, my co-host, is here. Good morning.
Morning, Sela.
And then we would love to go straight into the paper, starting with the first news.
On First News newspaper, Tinubu's big economic decisions being noticed globally, a statement coming from the UK envoy. Tinubu in Paris to facilitate foreign investment into Nigeria, coming from the presidency, will rely on only the law to determine petitions, coming from the presidential tribunal. Pirate Confraternity advocates special court to prosecute gender-based violence offenders. I was deceived on Cross River staff strength, Governor Otu cries out. The big story on the paper, Tinubu, Shetima, governors, other elected politicians get 114% salary increase. Lawmakers, judicial, and public officers too to benefit. Implementation began since January 1st, 2023. Statement coming from RMAFC. Why we are holding a mefle by DSS, suspended CBN boss is flight risks, coming from OAGF. At the downside of the paper, court reinstates impeached Zamfara deputy governor. Missing businessman, family petitions body of benchers, NBA over lawyers allege misconduct. Nigerians not target of visa policy on foreign students' family, coming from the UK envoy. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Airtel Africa kicks off 5G rollout in 3 countries. Metered customers increased by 3.61% in the first quarter of 2023, coming from the MBS. Ministry direct Ukuku to continue as NDDC Chief Executive. And the big story for Nigerian News Direct, Tinubu subsidy removal, exchange rate reforms, pathway for foreign investment, coming from the UK government, with the writer saying, President big economic decision attract global recognition, says travel restriction to UK not targeted at Nigerians. You can find all of that story on page 21. And we have eco rights hit the market as Sanwo-Olu launches 5 billion naira forward contracts for paddy supplies. Coming from Nasarawa Assembly, APC stakeholders insist Ogazi remains speaker unless court says otherwise. NLNG, River State government renew commitment to healthcare infrastructural development. Hoodlum adopt rapes Oshun undergraduate. You can find that story on page 2. We have 2 picture stories on the front page of the paper. Do well to get the paper related of stories of interest to you.
On the Guardian newspaper, APM closes petition challenging Tinubu's victory. Court adjourns to July 14. Tinubu pushes for FDI as world leaders seek inclusive financial system at Paris summit. Freed inmate narrates 14-year prison experience for not cooperating with policemen. You can find the details on page 6. And the big story on The Guardian, proposed 114% pay rise for public officers complicates minimum wage negotiation. And we have an infograph where we can see the pay raise in Nigeria since 2007. Do well to grab the paper and find the details on page 6. Nigeria needs state police to tackle insecurity, says ex-Agri Minister Obe. You can find the details of his statement on page 3. Why UK government banned dependent visa for Nigerian students by High Commissioner. You can find the details inside the paper on page 3, and that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, hearing continue in the Zani's case on forfeited asset you can find on page 12. Egbetuku plans tech-driven policy improve welfare. You can find that also inside the paper. DSS Combs Bowers Abuja home extend probe to associates. The big story on board dissolution, 2,000 vaccines open for APC faithful. All right, I take that story again. Board dissolution, 2,000 vacancies open for APC faithful. Tinubu's aid with the rider, 153 agency parasators and others await board members' appointment. Don't sacrifice competence for political patronage, OPS tells president. You can find a story on page 2. And of course, we have the picture story that shows the Lagos rice value chain create 2,620 jobs coming from the Lagos state governor. Makinde elevate Lakoja, 10 other Ibadan high chiefs to Oba. Resident panic as bandit reign of terror return to Ondo local government. We can find that story on page 7. And we have labor forms as RMFAC hikes politician salary. You can find that on page 2. And I think that we've been reading the story, so I think it's important we talk about it a little at this moment. The salary increments of the president, the vice governors, and other top politicians. And of course, if you look at what Labour said on the paper, that it actually contradicts, the negotiation for minimum wage. And of course, you will agree that at a time where Nigerians are going through so much hardship, at a time where 8 weeks have been set to actually look and give the committee time to be able to look into the minimum wage, where we saw the Labour Congress, as the likes of the NLC and TUC, saying that the minimum wage should be 150,000 naira from when it was 30,000 naira. And I love the way the Guardian placed it here, where we saw that what the president was getting then was 3.5, and presently right now it is getting 8 million naira. And then we went down to see civil servants were getting 7.5 thousand naira, and then it was increased to 30,000 naira. And then right now there's a change in the general price level. And then one of the reasons that was given for the salary increment of the president was the fact that we're having a commodity change index. And you will agree with me, Richard, that everybody is going through that same. Everybody goes to the market. Yes, everybody uses the transport fare. And then 8 weeks have been set to look into the plight of the civil servants. Let me not even make it look like just the civil servant, to look into the interest of Nigerians. So you will agree that at a time where a lot of hardship, a lot of mixed reaction is coming, Nigerians are hoping that the president will look into something. We saw, yes, removing of the first subsidy was something that has been there, and people are like, let's remove it because few individuals are actually benefiting from it. Yes, it is painful at a time, but Nigerians were being promised that at the long run, we will all enjoy it. True. And of course, Nigerians are beginning to see reasons into it. But at a time where we have value-added tax have been increased on diesel, at a time where
tariff,
RF, at a time, so many things are actually not going. Talking about electricity tariff that will be increasing in July 1st. So that means when the increase will be there, talking about the negotiation has not yet been rounded up. So because they said 8 weeks. So a lot of things are happening. And I know that, of course, Nigerians will not really accept this. Yesterday, we saw in the paper where there is allocation of 24 billion naira for accommodation. And of course, when I was reading, it was all about talking about the high of demand of houses around the Maitama, because a lot of politicians will be moving into there. Those who have been elected, their aides will also love to live around the vicinity, easy access to where they are working. But let us look at Nigerians, somebody who is actually living in as far as maybe Nyanya, and then have to take transport fare to go to somewhere like Maitama. Transport fare is very costly right now. We saw that even the airfare has actually skyrocketed because of one reason or the other. So a lot of stories, a lot of mixed reaction at a time like this. And I know, of course, Nigerians will really feel bitter. We've seen that Labour have actually even are not really happy with that. And then there was a contradiction coming from the boss of the RMFAC, where he said that it's because of that, and then his aide was actually trying, or his spokesperson was trying to say, no, that is not it. And we see Serap actually threatening to go to court if they do not take down that proposal of increasing this. So a lot of things are happening at a time like this. So Rachel, I would like to hear your own take on this issue.
Because I would have loved to avoid this conversation, but it is on our paper. The reason why I would want to avoid it is because of the emotions tied to it. And then we are currently facing an economy where our revenue allocation keeps dropping because obviously the government is not making that much revenue. We're talking about our oil revenue also dropping. And when I talk about allocation coming from the FAAC, that is the revenue that have been generated from tax that are relocated back to the federal government, the state government, and then the local government. We see how it kept on dropping from 722 billion naira down to 714 billion naira and down to 600 and thereabout. We see how it keeps dropping. So automatically it means that the institutions that are responsible for collecting tax have been seeing a decrease in tax revenue generated. So it means at the federal government level, we're not receiving as much as we want, down to the state and the local government level. Now we're talking about oil revenue also is dropping. We have not been meeting our quota of 1.8 million barrel per day by OPEC, and we dropped. And when we drop in how much we produce a day, it means our revenue is dropping. Now, not only is our net revenue dropping at that angle, we saw that crude oil price per barrel have dropped to $70. Yesterday, it was on the paper, and we've been seeing that it means that the revenue we're making in this country keeps going down. Now, we won't also neglect the fact that we are having a high debt profile, and it keeps increasing because we saw, apart from the 800 million we've gotten from the World Bank as a palliative that we are going to pay in 25 years, we saw that another $750 million have been approved, part of it, the remaining part of it, for a power project gotten from the World Bank again. So we are talking about a country, and we're not even forgetting oil theft, that so much has been going away from us due to oil theft. So we are talking about a country that we are surviving on there, but not making as much revenue or income as we should. And then you see a 114% increment on salaries for politicians, and you wonder, why is that so? And I keep saying that we are in the position where we will see an administration showing themselves as selfless. But Sele, I'm not seeing selflessness here. I am seeing a selfish move. I am seeing a selfish act. That if the most we've gone for civil servants at the down is 7,500 to 30,000 naira, then we are seeing a country that the poor keep growing poor and those in power keep becoming rich, because this is how it feels now at a time like this where and I remember the president making a statement on paper saying, I feel your pain. And I clearly said, do you or can you? You're not even in the position to feel the pain of the common masses, because we are talking about you not going to the fuel station yourself. Your bills, every single bill of yours is being catered by the government themselves. So are they even in the position to truly feel our pains at the down level? And then it just breaks my heart in a lot of ways, because we really are desperately in need of selfless leaders in Nigeria. We were talking about cutting down the cost of governance. We're not even done with that, and now we are seeing a 114%. This is a lot, Sele. We're not talking about 20%, 30%. We are talking about double plus increment in their pay. And then we just hope, because they just casually said other offices also will be. So we want to know how much percentage are these other offices, the judicial, the civil servant, how much percentage are we getting increased on our own pay? Because yours is clearly stated 114. We want to know, are they also going to get 114, or is it just 10% or 20%? These are things that we need clarity on. Then we will know that you truly are feeling our pain, and you can know, because this automatically says that there is no cut down in the cost of governance. It means it has increased by 114%. So it means now we are just going to keep fueling and fueling the politicians pay on borrowed funds, on revenue that we are not even making enough, and all of that. And I see this as not being selfless, and we need selfless leaders in Nigeria to take us to the next place, and this is not a selfless act, Sally.
You know, of course, Rachel, because I'm not against an increase for our public officers. Of course, they deserve to be well taken care of, so they actually do their work. But then on at the detriment of what or who are we looking at it? Because most time we say that when the common man, especially civil servant or the health sector, when their demand is not being met, they go on strike. But then you now sit back and ask yourself, who benefits from it and who lost from it? They always lost, because eventually when you stay at home, now us is paying for going on strike because of their demand has not been met. 8 months salary, they are not going to see it. Why? Because there is a law, no work, no pay. So we have to go back to the drawing board and see, where did we get it wrong? Just like you rightly pointed out, where the revenue we're going to use to pay, we are working or actually running the country on deficit. So a lot of things need to be put into cognizance so that we know that really the government feel the pain of the common man. So why not push? You remember when we had that 8 weeks on the paper, I said, why not bring it forward? So imagine if there is an increment in, for instance, if it is an immediate thing that will be done, and then the common man have to wait, or the civil servant have to wait till August for his fate or for her fate to be determined at the end of the day. And only God knows, maybe the 150,000 might not even be approved. Eventually, it might even be gone, or maybe cut down to 80 or 100. So a lot of things need to be looked into, and I just feel that it would be right for the presidency to take another look into this issue. The federal government needs to do something so that Nigerians will know that truly the government have them in mind. So we hope to see that being done, and that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, appointment seekers intensify lobby, follow Tinubu abroad. Seek place in cabinet parastatal boards. You can find the details on page 6. Kanu Council Ozekome is job for not sacked. This is still on IPOB, and demanding for Kanu having a medical release or visit by his doctor. You can find the details on page 27. Change of service chiefs of Fenifere expresses optimism of better security. Obetukun assumes office as IGP, calls for synergy. Cost of international flights to increase by 20% over Naira depreciation, coming from IATA. Strengthening families, participants load Latter-day Saints for organizing conference. The writer following the story, church urges government to formulate policies that will make families better support marriages. You can find the details on page 27. And on fuel subsidy removal, good for investment, saying that statement coming from the British envoy president to push for foreign direct investment with world leaders. Imo government gets ultimatum to implement white paper inducting Okorocha. You can find the details on page 8. At the downside of the paper, 190 applicants jostle for PTDF overseas scholarship in Southeast. You can find the details on page 6, and that's all news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, on PIA, NMDPRA clear air over midstream and upstream operation. You can find that on page 9. Coming from the NGE president, IPIOT Ota congratulate Eze Anaba new exco. And on the Plateau attack, about 14 killed in night attack on 2 communities. You can find detail of that story on page 6. And one, we want to ask the question, why this sudden hatred and killings, especially in a few local government area. And then somebody else, I was opportune to go through papers and also through not papers, social media, some Facebook, pages, and then I got to see other people saying that maybe trying to attack the present governor because he is coming from a particular local government area. But I don't think this should be the right words coming, of course, because all of these things can actually increase hatred. If we take, for example, a place like Mango local government area, it's an area where we see both religion living peaceful. That you can find a family where the brother is Muslim or the other religion and the sister is a Christian, and they live in peace. No chaos, nothing whatsoever. Now, what happened? What went wrong? Where, regardless of your religion or where you're coming from, we do not care. We eat from the same plate. And I think we need to go back to that again. So we do not know why this increased hatred and this killing, especially in some local government area and community. We saw there was a curfew that was said, but yet on Tuesday there was another attack where over 14 people were being killed and burned. So a lot of things are happening, and I hope that the government and the security agency will rise up to their responsibility. You swore an oath to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians by doing what is expected. But we wonder why all of this thing where we see, we've heard where threats are being sent, letters are being sent, this community it's next to be attacked, and then our intelligence don't do anything about all of this, and we take it for granted. So I hope to see security agency rising up to their responsibility. Yesterday we saw the IGP saying that he's ruling like a lion, declaring war on criminals. And of course, some of the calls we got yesterday said that is the word, but we hope to see actions coming. So truly, this attack is really touching my head, and we've seen that even not just in Plateau State. I think there was where we saw even in Ondo State, attack again is coming up. So we begin to see pocket attack left, right, and center. Others don't even get to make it to the paper. But I know that a lot of things are happening, and we hope that, just like you keep making emphasis, somebody somewhere sleeping on their duty, we need to wake up. I keep saying it, that time to sleep is over. We need to wake up and do the right thing to protect life, because all of these measures that are being put, all of these policies that are being made, cannot make it headway when we begin to see attacks always. So I hope to see something being done about this. I will send our condolences to those who actually lost their life as a result of this, clash coming from whatever the issue is. We hope that will be rectified eventually.
Yes, I know when it comes to the plateau, we might speculate, but then there is a pattern. And then it is a sad pattern, because you can guess and say there is a reason behind this. We might not have the clear picture yet to know what is the thing beside this thing, or what is the thing behind and causing all of this trouble. But there is a pattern, it is out there, and it's left for the government to tackle it, to bring an end to it, because the people of Mango are not in the power to help themselves. That is why they have a government, and it is the responsibility of the government. You have the resources, you have everything it takes to make sure that no life is being lost. So we just calling on the government of Plateau to step in and make sure that this bloodshed on the plateau stops, because I want to believe that there is absolutely nothing going on in Nigeria that cannot be solved, be it at the state level, be it at the federal level, be it at whatever level. There are people who know what is the root cause of this. There are people that have the intelligence, the resource, the information, and they have handed it to the government, or they are yet to hand it over to the government. But then the people of Mango don't have the power to protect themselves. That is why we have a government, because we believe you have the resources at your disposal to do the needful. So stop sleeping and wake up, because enough is enough.
Of course. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, Kano Governor State Anti-Graft Commission Board suspended by Ganduje. You can find on page 13. UK businesses responding positively to Tinubu, coming from the British High Commissioner. And on the tribunal, Tinubu INEC kick as Obi tenders total PVCs in 32 states. You can find that story on page 8. And the big story for the Vanguard newspaper, steer clear of more borrowing. DMO cautioned the federal government, with the writer says 73.5% of revenue will be used to service debt in 2023. Advocate privatization, sale of government assets to reduce borrowing. FG should heed DMO's warning, coming from analysts. Caution against further borrowing coming from Adora. Debt service revenue situation very precarious coming from Abidoye. You can find all of the story on page 5. And Bill Gates is saying, my daughter excited I will see Burna Boy Remy in Nigeria. That is on the issue of entertainment. So you can read that story on page 9. Doctors raise alarm over suspended case of rabies in Kano, in Kaduna State. Doctors raise alarm over suspended case of rabies in Kaduna. You can find detail of that on page 13. I think that was then where we see rabies, especially in the dry season around December, January. But we've seen that there is a case of that. So we hope that will be, checked into with the issue of rabies there in Kaduna State so it doesn't escalate and cause loss of life eventually. And on ministerial slot, Tinubu made dumb ex-governors prefer technocrats coming from source. Benue Assembly recommends sack of 23 local government chairmen and others. And coming from the RMAFC, Tinubu Sheitima governors, judges, orders to get 114% salary increase. You can find that on page 8. We have picture stories showing Tinubu in Paris and other smaller column with other stories. So you can do well to get the Vanguard and read detailed stories of interest to you.
On leadership newspaper, we're giving President time says ASU NAHCON to operate 18 clinics in Muna Arafat. This is on Hajj. You can find the details on page 12. We have a trend on subsidy removal. Taxi union suspends planned strike. And on numbers, 6,221 Nigerian doctors left to UK in 6 years. This was flying on our papers yesterday. You can find the details on page 2. Lagos Chamber 6 tax cut over rising food costs. The details can be found on page 7. RMAFC denies increasing salaries of presidents, senators, and others. We can find the details on page 7. This is a little bit contradictory to what we have seen on the previous paper, where we are seeing a 114% increase, and now we are seeing that they are denying the increment. So we will keep ourselves open to whatever is going to unfold in Nigeria as it is now. The big story on leadership: investors upbeat as British government backs Tinubu's reform. UK sees Nigeria as a big opportunity for investment. Shetima British envoy discussed palliatives over subsidy removal. 15 killed in Plateau fresh attack. The details can be found on page 18. Marwa warns against stigmatization of drug abusers. Tinubu INEC kick as OB tenders PVCs from 32 states. You can find the details on page 20. On page 6, we have a picture story showing the president, and that's all the news on leadership newspaper.
Right, before we move further to other papers, we'd love to take a break at this moment so we can open the phone lines, and then we'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, or stories of interest to you. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is The Dailies on Echo Television International. We've been looking at various stories that of interest to you this morning. We've looked at the salary increase of 114% for the president, governors, and other top politicians. We've also seen that there is suspected case of rabies in Kaduna, which I think that the health commissioner there should take it very serious before it escalates. And then a lot of stories are actually on the paper. The summit that the president is actually attending in Paris, which is starting from today. So a lot of stories, and we'd love to hear what your take are concerning it by calling us on our number that is displayed on your screen. Please do remember, turn down the volume of your TV set because we really love to hear what you have to say. And then you just have at most a minute to just express your view and also to give us your opinion of any story that's of interest to you. Please, let's do remember to be very civil with our language, no use of curse words or whatsoever. Please, let's remember all of this. I still have Rachel Tanzi with me. Good morning, Rachel.
Morning, Sarah.
All right, we have a call already. Morning.
Morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning to you, ma.
Please turn down the
I'm
volume of
Chigozie.
your
I'm calling
TV
from
set.
Onitsha.
All right.
I want to speak. Okay, I want to speak on the topic. The topic about NSC and TUC. Increment of 50,000 naira minimum wage. Yes, it's good. 50,000 naira increment from 30,000 naira is good. But you think of how to revive the economy. In the sense that 50,000 naira is being increased to you, being able to afford a reasonable thing. The situation you buy half bag of rice, 40,000 naira, and they are paying you 50,000 naira. You have not do other expenses that says that your salary. At the end of the month, you still be robbing Peter to pay Paul. So paying you 50,000 naira at the end of the 8 months administration of this Tinubu, you are going to carry a black ass to protest that the money he's paying to you is very small. He cannot afford anything. So I think the economy, to bring out the prices of things is the key holder. So that the little amount that is being given to you, even as a worker on somebody who is in business, you've been able to be at least enough for you to purchase one thing or the other before the end of the month. Then a federal government is talking about the increment of salary. Their own salary, the presidency, the House of Rep, and what have you, is good. But we are talking of oil that is being dropping from the normal money we used to make from it. We are talking of borrowing. Where are you going to get those money to be able to add for your own salary? You are paying huge amount of money, more than some countries in the world. Some of countries in the world, Nigeria has paying the presidency, the House of Rep, and senators higher than most of those people. But they are still clamoring for more when they are seeing that our economy is going down every day. This problem we are having, that is selfish interest, if I will use the word.
Right.
Then killings in Kaduna is the problem that federal government need to take care of. It has been going on over and over. It doesn't started in this administration. So many administration has come, yet they are unable to bring a solution to that very problem. It's not issue of religion. I have dissected it in May. You go to Southwest, you see where you can get a father married. This one is a Muslim, this one is a Christian, and they are living harmony. Nobody is killing themselves. But when you go to North, the reverse vindication is no longer issue of religion.
Right.
They must solve their problem.
Thank you.
If those who is there will know exactly what is that problem.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for that contribution. We get it. A lot of killings, not just in Kaduna, in Plateau State. Yeah. And I need to correct it. The increase is not 50,000 naira. Yeah. They are just moving that the federal government will increase the salary of civil servants to 150,000 minimum wage. Please, let's do remember that. It's 150,000 and that has not yet been approved. Thank you. Hello, good morning. All right, please do remember to cut us back again. Turn down the volume of your TV set. Please, it is important to us that you do that because we'd love to hear what you have to say. And so we'll look at the Nation newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper, starting with the big story. Student loan plan spike controversy in universities with the writer Asu Konua. Parents take different position. Policy due to begin September. So you can do well to read detail of that story on the front page and continue on page 6. Other stories on the Nation newspaper. Makinde tips 6 ex-commissioners to return. With the writer House get list of 7. You can find detail of that story inside. Ogbe to government, state police will end insecurity, acting IG talk stuff. You can find that story on page 2 and 5. What I Told President by Bill Gates, you can find that on page 2. Equal rice enter market sales for 33,000 naira. You can find that on page 41. And we have Naira narrows down to 796 Naira per dollar. You can find that detail inside the paper and the reason why we saw the hike in effect, because people are actually finding it. As of yesterday, they said the same dollar was cheaper at the black market. So I don't know why that is the case. So we look forward to that single exchange, rate. Lecturers shut down Agagu University. You can find that story on page 7. Downside of the paper coming from the MBS discourse rank in 247 billion naira.
I wanted to speak on this thing that is on.
Good morning, sir. Please
Hello?
turn down the volume of your TV set, sir.
Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Okay. This is Dan on the line, calling from Kaduna.
All right. Please, sir, go ahead. You tend to be listening to your TV set. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. Okay, I want to speak on this issue of increment of salary to the president. Then members of House of Reps and the senators, please.
Sir, please go ahead. Your time is moving. Hello? All right, control room, maybe you can call us back again, Mr. Dan. We'd love to hear what your takes are. Please, to our callers, remember, you have just a minute to air your view. Please do remember that. Thank you so much. And then still on the Nation newspaper, downside of the paper, we have discourse rank in 247 billion naira in the first quarter, 20 fear killed in Plateau's attack, and then Imo to revisit Okorocha's probe. Hello, good morning.
Of the salary to the president. I think that one is just a drama. How can a president be collecting 8 million naira and you are a president? While we know that all presidents have their security vote, they have ethical, they have other things that they have not come out to tell Nigeria how much the go to the president, and they have not told us how much the president spent again in the hospital in the villa. And secondly, I wanted to ask you guys. I thought EPA has a blueprint. I've been watching your TV station and I've never heard you or seen, I can't be corrected, any news coming from Today Challenge or any big thing that belongs to EPA. They still exist or they don't? Because I'm shocked. All this story happened in Plateau State that the media has done carry. I expect the Today Challenge that we used to read when we're far away, we get the true story of the Middle Belt, the true story of Plateau, of our home, from here. And I don't hear about it again. So please enlighten me if Today Challenge still exists, or the ECWA still have a blueprint or just the TV and the radio station. Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, sir. And we've been giving you updates of all of the killings that have been happening and what will be done. But then thank you so much for your observation. And then still on the Nation newspaper, I think the last story we have Imo to revisit Okorocha probe, which you can find on page 2 of the Nation. We have pictures still showing the president at his meeting in Paris, and that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On this day newspaper, RMAFC defense recommendation for 114% increase of president and others' salaries. Insists salary of Nigeria's president one of the lowest in the world. You can find the details on page 10. Sanwo-Olu launches 5 billion naira forward contracts for paddy supplies as Eco-Rice hits market. Ebotokun takes over as 22nd IG, pledges intelligence-led policing. The writer following the story, Navy denies alleged handover statement, new CNS takeover Friday. Appointment of NSA service chief orders in nation interest coming from Abbas. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 10. And the big story on this day newspaper coming from Alake, Tinubu will push for DFI with world leaders in France. The writer following the story, president to meet US, France, other counterparts on summit sidelines. Shetima canvasses stronger relations with British government. UK loads nation's ongoing economic reforms. Envoy clarifies visa restrictions, says not applicable only to Nigerian students. The details can be found on page 10. Bill Gates charges young innovators, founders to prioritize equity.
My contribution is about increasing the salary of our politicians.
Go ahead,
Are you getting me? Yeah.
Yes, we are.
If you check, all this thing is not the problem. It cannot solve the problem of Nigeria. The more you are increasing the salary of politicians, you are increasing the killings of Nigeria, because many people are there. They are killing because of the money politicians are getting from government. That is why all these killing are increasing day by day. And look at many people, they have killed their people. And many times have them visit those people to compensate that money they're supposed to, they will use and increase their salary. Let them use it and visit all those people they have been killing their peoples. That is my contribution.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for your own view on what the salary increment could actually lead to. We hope that that won't be the case eventually.
Still on this day newspaper, Bill Gates charges young innovators, founders to prioritize equity in benefit distribution. You can find the details inside the paper. We have changing the guard. We can see the acting inspector general of police and with Baba during his ceremony yesterday in Abuja, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, FCTA building plan approval now within 90 days, coming from the director. You can read that story on the front page and more inside the paper. The big story for the Daily Times, anger over Tinubu Shetima office holders' hefty salary increase. With the rider, sharp disagreement, discordant tunes, rock. All right, let's take this call.
On the increment of
Good morning,
the salaries
sir.
of our politicians.
All right.
This nation, the last government has made us a poor nation. You know, I want to comment that the salary of our politicians shall be reduced, not to increase. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly.
Let them reduce the salary of our politicians, from the president to the local government chairman. We are a poor nation. And let us also increase the salary of other workers. The 50,000 naira minimum wage is not okay. Remember the time of Udoji. What happened to Nigeria now is starting that's from Udoji regime, Udoji payments. So let us increase the salary of low workers so that they have money to pay for their house rent. They will have money for transportation. That's what I want to comment.
All right, thank you so much, sir. And let me correct again, it's not 50,000 naira. Labour are moving for the increment to be 150,000 naira. Presently, the minimum wage is 30,000 naira, but they want an increase to 150,000 naira. Please, to all our viewers, we would love you to take note of that. That's what is on the paper. And of course, the fact that reducing the salary of our public officers. We've looked at the reducing, cutting the cost of governance. We've seen where MDAs have been merged because it seems as if some departments are actually doing the same thing. So there was a merging so that we'll be able to limit and also cut the cost of governance. But then, of course, the politicians also need to get an increase. But then we need to look at the increase to be balanced. And that is what Nigerians are actually pushing for. That while the civil servant is enjoying also having an increase, it's the same thing with the leaders. So they can actually lead well, and also the people can actually have transport, just like our last quarter. Yeah. You can have good food to eat and also have transport fares, so pay your rent and all of that. Sure. So I think this is what Nigerians are looking to see this administration doing.
And I think when we talk cutting down the cost of governance, it's not cutting down their salaries. Let's also get that. We're talking about allowances that are outrageous, that you see allowance for this, allowance for that, allowance for that, and it just keeps piling and increasing. Of course, Sele, the challenge, what we're talking about here is the 114%, Sele. We're talking about double with an extra 14% increase on top again. So it's like you're earning 5 million, and now with 114%, we're talking about you now earning there about 12 million, or there about 13 million, thereabout. So we're not saying that it shouldn't. I think is the 100 is too much with our economic condition at this time now. So we're not saying if the president was being paid 3 million as his basic salary, we should take it back to 2 million. No, but we are talking about the percentage. It is high, and when we talk about cutting down the cost of governance, is that looking at those allowances that can go down.
Call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Dan is back from Kaduna.
All right, Mr. Dan, please go ahead. You have just 1 minute, please.
All right. I want to talk about the increment of salary to the president and senators, members of House of Reps. Already, if you look at the amount that these people are collecting, somebody that is having a diploma and is collecting 18 million naira per month, and you are saying that you want to add his salary, while a civil servant is collecting, not all the states are collecting 30,000 minimum wage. Like in my state, local government staffs are collecting only 18,000 naira minimum wage. So what is the parameter that they are using to increase the salaries of senators and the president? What are they doing? So I see no reason why that they should add their salary. Already they are collecting enough of money for themselves, while they are leaving teachers, local government staffs, state government staffs. They are collecting. How much are they collecting? So please, I think it's something that the government have to look into it, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dan from Kaduna, for also airing your view on the increment. We hope to see, a new change being done. You were making a point, or you're done?
No, I just made my point. I said we are talking about the amount of the increase. That is the problem, not that we are fighting whatever increase. Yes, so that's just the problem. It's outrageous.
Of course. But still on Daily Time newspaper, suspended herdsmen in Plateau kill 15, burn church and palace. You can find detail of that story on the front page and inside the paper. Crisis in Indume's mosque not over. Find more of the story inside. BUA Foods to maintain rice prices across Nigeria. You can find that story on page 15.
The increment of the salary.
All right, good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
In fact, if you look at the civil servants, somebody will serve the country for complete 35 years. And you can see that maybe the senator, when they increase their salary, at least within 3 or 4 months, the person that served for complete 35 years, then it will ask change in his pocket again for just only 3 months. This need to be considered because this is the form of work, but they be eager because of that money. So the government will see to it. Thank you.
All right,
God
thank
bless
you
you.
so much, sir. All right. And I think that's all on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, 23rd killed in plateau communities. UK envoy shed more light on visa restriction on foreign student families. Discusses assistance to cushion subsidy removal effects. The big story on Nigerian Tribune, I will make community policing work, coming from the acting Inspector General of the Police, assures of payment of salary arrears of recently recruited constables by month end. You can find the details on page 3. How alcohol can lead to kidney, liver, and brain failure, coming from experts. Your leaders caution oil companies play rise in pollution. Passengers boycott waterways transportation as boat operators hike fares. You can find the details on page 20. We have Salah Rams dealers bemoan low patronage, buyers lament high prices. You can find the details on page 29, and you can see the prices of rams across states in Nigeria. At the downside of the paper, assets for future court to hear the Zenith suit against EFCC October 23rd. You can find the details on page 30, and we have a picture story still showing the president in France and with others that went with him. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let me close it with New Telegraph newspaper. On power. Nigerians paid 247.33 billion naira in the first quarter of 2023, and on forex, naira eases to 763.17 naira per dollar at the I&E window, which you can find on page 25. The big story on wall of statistics: with 2,125 hours yearly, Nigerian workers top global ranking, second to Mexico with just 4 hours more, Costa Rica third with 2,073 hours. NLC picket Chinese firm handling new ECOWAS office over poor working conditions. You can find that on page 2 and 3. And we have electricity tariff to be hiked by 50% in Nigeria, coming from the NCPN, blames recent floating of naira deregulation of forex trading windows, I think, the reason for the hike. So you do well to read detail of that on page 8. And we have a study that says regular napping boosts the brain health, so you can do well to observe that and read more detail of that on page 26. And that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thanks so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to all the callers who called in this morning, the crew members, our producer, the general manager, our supporters, and also to the ECO executive. Until we come here again, do have a blessed day ahead.